Savannah State.
Games to Nichols State and cross-state rival Bethune-Cookman.
Listen, man, we can't lose to BCU. We can't. Damn, so they was good in the 90s too? Bro, can you imagine being at FAMU in the 90s when the football team was good and was playing mother Uncle Luke?
The season would begin with a 13-52 blowout to Illinois, a result made even worse.
How do I say? Believe me when I say I'ma pull up when the stage drops. Believe me when I say she don't look good.
Yo, what it is, everybody? It's your boy Srotonn here, but you can call me Tone. All right, listen, we finna watch Florida A&M's Catastrophic move to Division 1A football. Now, I'm a basketball dude, so I don't really know much, but I love FAMU. Shout out to all my FAMU folks out there. Let's get into it.
Special thank you to my patrons for both helping make this video happen.
Yeah, for sure.
College football. The 90s were an almost indescribable boon to Floridian college football.
Yeah. I don't remember that, but yeah, I heard. Okay, top schools. Who got Florida State in there?
On the
Miami.
top, you had all three of Florida's largest brands at or near their peaks of power.
Yeah.
Spurrier's Gators, Bowden's Seminoles, and Erickson's Hurricanes, all lighting up the nation, winning 4 national titles and playing for many more across the decade.
And what's so crazy, bro, is some people was telling me like northern folks, but they was just like, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, they was laughing at like Florida State, and like UM. But I was like, bro, it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot different. A lot of these Florida teams, they're not going to the Gators. They're not going to the Florida State. They're going to like Bama, Ohio State and shit. We losing mother recipes. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know.
Beyond Florida's Big Three, however, this boon brought with it the establishment of Florida's mid-majors. After spending more than 2 decades without a mid-major college team, the state of Florida would see the rise of 5 across the 90s and early 2000s. The first would be Central Florida, being promoted to the FBS in 1996. A year before their eventual arch-rivals, South Florida, established their football program, with the Bulls eventually being promoted in 2001. After Orlando and Tampa came Boca Raton and Miami, with FAU and FIU both creating a football program in the early 2000s, and both being promoted in 2004.
Damn, early 2000s?
These 4 schools would fill out Florida's second tier of college football, each spending the decades following their establishment writing the next chapter of Floridian football. In the middle of this renaissance came a 5th mid-major team, a storied Division II program looking to move to college football's highest level of play. The 4 teams before are still with us in Division 1A, but this 5th program is nowhere to be found.
Hey,
the void,
relax.
A byproduct of the catastrophe their move to the FBS ended up being. This is the story of Florida A&M.
Listen, I know this is about, man, the move to D1, man, but shout out to FAMU regardless. I don't give a fuck about the football program. I was there when we went like 1 and mother 12, okay? So I know about how trash it is.
And their disastrous
still a wonderful university. But let's hear about it. Oh, with a little smooth jazz.
The Florida A&M Rattlers, before their move to the FBS, were among the most storied football programs in HBCU and Florida football history.
100%.
Being founded in 1907, the Rattlers would play as an independent until 1926, when they joined the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference with fellow HBCUs like Morehouse, Tuskegee, and Tennessee State. It's in the SIAC where they'd win their first black college national title in 1938.
Of course.
The first of an eventual 16, tied with Tennessee State for the most among
16 of them things, bro. So I don't want to hear it. I don't. 16 of them things.
HBCU programs. They'd spend the first half of the 20th century in the NCAA College Division, essentially Division II, where they proved competitive both within and outside of the HBCU sphere, winning an AP College Division national title in 1962 off a 9-1 record. Their year-in and year-out proficiency would eventually lead to their promotion in the newly founded Division I AA, or FCS, in 1978, where they immediately went 10-1 in the regular season, made the inaugural FCS playoffs, and won a Division I AA national title, the first, and as of the 2023 season, only, historically black college and university program to do so. The Rattlers, after leaving the SIAC for the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference in '79 and scoring...
See, the MEAC, That's where I come in. You know, I know about the MEAC days, my brother. I know about the MEAC, okay?
The win over the Miami Hurricanes would begin to cool off going into the 80s, before storming back into FCS prominence in the 90s, with the hiring of Super Bowl III champion Billy Joe off an NAIA national title winning stint with the Central State Marauders. He'd win his first MEAC title in 95, before bringing the Rattlers back to the playoffs for the first time since they won it all in 78. Billy Joe's Florida A&M would remain a postseason threat for the rest of the 90s, with a deep push in 1999 highlighting the 6-year playoff streak going into 2001, where Florida...
Damn, so they was good in the 90s too? Bro, can you imagine being at FAMU in the 90s when the football team was good and niggas was playing motherfucking Uncle Luke? What? The music and the football team was good? Shh.
Florida A&M began dreaming of Division 1A, the summit of college football. In the wake of the Rattlers' dominant 6-year run, the idea of a promotion to the FBS began floating in the minds of A&M's athletic department, particularly in the mind of athletic director Fred Gaines. Taking over in 2002 following the departure of longtime director Frederick Humphreys, Gaines would oversee a Rattler football program he and other members of the Rattler top brass felt was ready to make the move to the FBS. This eventual decision would come down to a number of factors, the clearest of which being the quality of play A&M was producing. It's far from impressive programs with the success the Rattlers had to make the move to Division 1A. Looking at national title winners from 78 to 02, 2 programs, Boise State and Louisiana Monroe, would already be in the FBS, with an additional 4, Georgia Southern, Marshall, UMass, and Western Kentucky, moving up to the...
Who else is on this list? Georgia Southern, Mass, Marshall, Montana, Southern Illinois. Okay.
Highest level of play in the coming decades. Throughout the 90s, they'd even be in the same playoff brackets with a number of these future FBS teams. 98 alone had Georgia Southern, UConn, Troy, UMass, and Appalachian State.
Okay, Florida A&M with Troy State. Okay, Western Illinois beat us. Florida A&M.
All playing alongside Florida A&M. The Rattlers were also, theoretically,
that's dope. It was in the bracket, though, shit.
Being right beside Florida State in the lucrative recruiting grounds of Florida. The perfect spot for undervalued diamonds in the rough that fly right under Florida State's nose. The community support was also there. HBCUs in general have some of the most active fan bases among the FCS, owing to their rich histories these programs have, attracting crowds that make even some Power 6 programs blush. Beyond these factors, however...
Bro, when I tell y'all, like, we used to pull up to the fucking football game. We used to pull up to the football game knowing that we were going to lose. There was no doubt about it. But the tradition of going to the game, watching the band, watching the Marching 100, bro, like, you can't beat it. Then once the 100 done, what's the move tonight? What's the move tonight? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, that's just what it was.
Less objective, but far more important reason behind A&M's eventual decision. The Florida A&M Rattlers pride themselves on being HBCU football pioneers. They were the first to win an NCAA-sanctioned national title, being one of only 2 HBCUs to do so. They were the first to win the FCS.
The second one? I know we were the first one.
Only HBCU to even really get close.
Of course.
They've won more and have been further than all of their peers. And becoming the sole FBS HBCU would be their final step in their multi-decade-long journey to make history. When the decision was finally made in 2003 to move up, the administration would instantly be put on the back foot.
So what I'm wondering, and maybe he'll get into it, is now that we were made that decision to go ahead and move up, go ahead and get to doing the do. Why the recruitment? Why didn't we go ahead and get them people that be like, you know what I'm saying? Them people that be, you know, I don't know. Maybe get into it.
The Rattlers' application would be almost immediately approved by the NCAA, but they'd get 0 transition period to get their program in order. They were immediately Division 1A. 2003 would be their last year in the FCS, and they needed to get everything ready in less than a year. And there was plenty to get ready.
I didn't even know about this.
Both on the field and on the sidelines, needed to be expanded by a non-insignificant amount, meaning more scholarships and more paychecks needed to be handed out. A&M's home stadium, Bragg Memorial, also needed to be expanded.
Yes, sir.
And in the span of less than a year, with many programs already having their schedules set in stone, Florida A&M needed to find 11 teams to play, including at least 4 home games, all before actually assembling a competitive FBS team. On the competitive team front, Billy Joe would get to work assembling his first FBS roster, landing a number of high-profile transfers.
Okay, so we had Willie. I do know Willie Simmons. Hold on now, I know Willie Simmons. All right, so we got people from Arkansas, Miami, Virginia Tech. Okay.
transfers to help ease them into Division 1A. The highlight of which being Clemson quarterback Willie Simmons, a senior looking for a fresh start in Tallahassee, a name expected to add legitimacy and recruits to the Rattlers. According to NCAA rules at the time regarding transfers, you could transfer to Division 1A to AA without sitting a year, meaning Simmons would be able to transfer in and start immediately.
Okay.
There was one problem, however. Florida A&M was no longer Division 1 AA. They were already, legally speaking, in the FBS, meaning Simmons would have to sit, something the senior quarterback could not do. After receiving the news, he'd frantically transfer again to the Citadel. One more transfer would follow him out of Tallahassee, and the Rattlers wingman was already out before the season even began. It'll only get worse. Naming rights for the stadium, a move to try to balance the budget A&M desperately needed to be out of the red, would fall through. So would their television contract. They were bleeding money by the day with no end in sight, and the stadium renovations never gone off the ground.
We know that. We know that, brother.
For still, of the 11 games they scheduled for their inaugural FBS season, only 6 actually came from the FBS.
Okay, so we had Tech, Illinois, Tulane, don't know who that is. FAU. Okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad little tester.
And only one would be willing to make the trip to Tallahassee. And racing to meet the
nobody else
2004 deadline.
FIU, y'all know y'all green as hell. Y'all didn't want to come to fucking Tallahassee, bro. Nah, I know that bit like 8 hours. I know it's like 8 hours, but come on, huh?
Florida A&M achieved none of their goals, being thrust into the FBS broke, depleted, and unprepared. The stage was set for a disaster of biblical proportions.
Oh God,
what a disaster that began on September 4th, 2004 in Champaign, Illinois. The season would begin with a 13-52 blowout to Illinois, a result made even worse.
How do I say goodbye?
I'm not gonna lie. Hey, you know what's crazy? That's not even the worst score I've ever seen. I'm not even joking to you. That's not the worst score. At least we scored. I'm assuming. At least we scored.
By how Illinois looked to the rest of the season. They'd go 3-8 on the year, averaged 21.8 points per game, 338.1 yards per game, and 1.7 interceptions per game on offense. But against the fledgling Rattlers, they'd look exactly like Pete Carroll's USC, scoring just 12 less points in this game alone than they'd score throughout the entire month of October.
Oh, Lord. Were we the only team they beat? Were we the
only bad Power 6 team is still Power 6, though. It was an expected loss. What was a little more concerning was a 20-point loss to an eventual 5-6 Tulane in front of a mostly empty New Orleans Superdome, elevating yet another struggling offense to one of their season best performances.
This is probably where it started. Niggas was all like, oh, oh, y'all niggas is good. Okay.
And they'd lose 38-7 to an abysmal 2-9 Temple Owls. And
Temple, that's who that is. The logo threw me off. Oh my God, 38-7. See, this is what I'm. This is the score I'm looking at.
Year by a mile. Thankfully for Florida A&M, they'd get a few FCS teams to fill out their bare bones.
Hey, shout out to the Florida Classic.
Win 3 of 5, beating Tennessee State, Virginia Union, and Savannah State.
Okay, so Virginia Union. Is that even a team in there? Okay, TSU beat TSU.
And dropping
Savannah State. Okay, gotta whoop Savannah State.
Games to Nicholls State and cross-state rival Bethune-Cookman.
Listen, man, we can't lose to BCU. We can't do it, bro.
In between these uninspiring performances against teams supposedly a subdivision below them, the Rattlers would take a 0-62 evisceration at the hands of an eventual top 10 Virginia Tech, before playing the state of Florida's 2 other youngest programs, Florida Atlantic and Florida International, promptly getting blown out by both. Neither were especially great. FAU would finish with a deceptive 9-3 record that included 4 FCS wins and a 3-3 conference record, and FIU would finish a short 10-game season that included 5 FCS teams of their own.
My thing is, bro, how do you even, and I know that shit sucks, bro, with the whole like transfer thing. The transfer shit, that just fucked us. But I'm like, bro, how do you stay motivated as a team? You know what I mean? How do you stay motivated going into a game, be like, I ain't gonna lie, y'all, we probably gonna lose this motherfucker again. What does that motivation look like?
With a horrific 3-7 record, but it simply didn't matter. Peak under the hood,
like I said, I've seen worse.
Scoring 11.67 points per game and giving up 44.83 points per game against the FBS. Going 2-8 on field goals. All against, outside of Virginia Tech and FAU, fundamentally broken teams. It was clear by the end of the year that Florida A&M was one of the worst teams in the nation. Advanced metrics, such as this formula from Secret Base's Bill Connolly, have them as the worst team in the
3-8. How we worse than the motherfucking 1-10? Let me look at the stats. I don't know what that 120 is to that 30 to that 74, but I know what 1-10 is.
nation, even beating out the winless 2004 Central Florida Knights.
Motherfucking UCF didn't even win a game. Niggas is dick riding at this point.
Agrees with. Putting the 2004 Rattlers in the same conversation as some of the worst teams of the 21st century, in large part due to the soft schedule they lost this hard to. As this disaster of a season unfolded on the field, another disaster would strike off the field. The athletics budget was deep in the
shout out to the McDonald's
and the rest
sponsor.
of the university was beginning to feel it. Florida A&M could not gamble its very survival on Division 1A, and 5 games into the 2004 season, the plug was pulled. The Rattlers rejoined the MEAC and the FCS in 2005. The experiment was over. The fallout had just begun. Fred Gaines was first on the chopping block, as both the largest proponent of the Rattlers move up in the face of an athletic department on fire. It was clear his time as athletic director was going to come to an abrupt end. In August of 2005, after a, quote, heated meeting, the Florida A&M Board of Trustees voted 9-4 to fire Fred Gaines. On top of the failed move to the FBS and general financial mismanagement, the board would...
I ain't gonna lie, that doesn't seem like his fault though. But maybe it was. Do you go and get Willie Simmons and them knowing that he can't transfer? Should you have looked somewhere else? But I don't, that whole... Now, during that time, if they had the transfer portal and all that shit, then... could FAMU have been a really good program for a longer time? You never know.
Also point to nearly 200 separate NCAA violations regarding eligibility rules. They were mostly minor accounting errors, but it was enough for the MEAC to strip a number of conference titles from the Rattlers.
Damn!
Issue a 6-figure fine to the already financially stripped athletic department, and a reduction of scholarships. These violations, beyond further tarnishing Gaines' tenure, would put head coach Billy Joe in the administration's crosshairs. The NCAA would clarify that Billy Joe was not involved in any of these infractions, but it didn't matter to an administration that by then did not really care for Joe, who would be unceremoniously fired by the interim athletic director.
So this is why a lot of older folks, have a problem with FAMU. And well, probably how they used to be academically. Because I be wondering and be talking to older folks and they just will not hear you when it come to FAMU. They be like, nah, FAMU is this, FAMU is that. Like, and you'd be like, why not FAMU? Because FAMU, hell no. You not gonna give me a reason? So this must be why. They must got a bad taste from all this like stuff, especially athletes from things going back from this time. Okay, I can see it now. Don't mean it's right. Fuck y'all still.
Florida A&M had wiped the slate clean, but it'd take years for the Rattlers to fully recover. It'd take until 2010 for the Rattlers to take home another conference title. 9 years after Billy Joe's last 2010. It'd be an additional 9 years for Florida A&M to take home another Black College national title, and another 2 years for the Rattlers to finally return to the FCS playoffs. With the chaos that was the 2004 Florida A&M promotion to Division 1A now in the rear view, the only question left is how it possibly could have worked. The product A&M put onto the field was rough, but it was far from the deciding factor. After all, FIU went a collective 9-36 in their first 4 years of FCS play, after failing to ever get above 500 in the FCS, and yet they're still kicking today. The problem lies partially in execution.
Coincidence? I think not!
And timing. Florida A&M needed years to get everything together, to get funds collected, recruits in uniform, coaches on the sideline, new seats in Bragg Memorial. It simply couldn't have all been done in 10 months. Then there's the schedule. There's a reason the NCAA now requires new programs to join a conference before promotion. It helps the schedule-making process immensely to have 8-ish conference games to lean on. Trying to schedule an independent schedule, again in the span of 10 months, is a Sisyphean task. And it wasn't just football either. Florida A&M was going to go independent in every single sport.
Oh, God, no. Well, I mean, I guess FBS schools. So, I mean, are we scared of FAU basketball-wise? Maybe Illinois. Maybe. Virginia Tech, I ain't gonna lie, that team was kind of straight.
Something no other university has even tried to do in the modern era. Even Notre Dame has joined a number of different conferences for a number of different sports to help ease the schedule building process. That being said, all of these factors working against the Rattlers paled in comparison to the biggest reason Florida A&M's jump to Division 1A was doomed from the start, a lack of funds. The university was already suffering from an unhealthy budget, even back in the 90s, and the move turned that budget concern into a budget nightmare, threatening the very survival of Rattler athletics. It's an issue that would have struck regardless of the time A&M had to prepare, even if Bragg Stadium's naming rights sold, or if the television deal went through, and likely even if they managed to attract a conference.
Okay.
It was a ticking time bomb, one whose wires, unfortunately, could not be snipped. In the long years after the disaster that was their attempted move, Florida A&M is finally back on their feet.
Yes, sir.
Playing the games they largely always had. In a subdivision of football they've always been comfortable in. Even if there is some reality where Florida A&M's move to the FBS was successful, what would it be for? To play in the shadow of Florida State? To slowly lose each and every notable series and rivalry the program has had for decades to play UAB or Southern Mississippi? Florida A&M is, to this day, one of the HBCU's most prestigious programs, and while their dreams of the FBS did eventually fall through, the legacy remains stronger than ever.
Okay. I like this video. This was nice. This gave an old young nigga like me perspective and things I didn't know. I never knew that FAMU went to the FBS. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not know. And I didn't know that they were good in the 90s like that. I thought, ain't gonna lie, bro, I thought FAMU has just kind of always been, I knew FAMU was super good in the beginning. Super good in the beginning. I thought they fell off in the 90s and then only became good like, the last, 2-3 years? So this was good information for me and I appreciate this video. Quick little shout out, then I'll keep it going. But like, FAMU has given me so many things. It's given me best friends. It's given me an organization. Shout out to the Strikers. And it's given me a upcoming wife. You know what I'm saying? So thank you so much to FAMU. And I hope that we keep on winning. But appreciate everybody for coming through, man. Till next time, I'm out.